Hey everybody, this is your host Jeremy. I want to take a quick second at the beginning of the episode here just to let you know that we have launched a Patreon to support the show. Check us out at patreon.com/givingthemic. Your contribution helps us cover hosting costs, edit costs, and even some equipment upgrades. Patreon is a way that you can automatically support the show each month with a donation as little as $1. $5 every month gives you access to regular premium episodes as well as the backer-only special cat photo email list. You can actually see the cats of the host that you can hear in the background. Once again, that is at patreon.com/givingthemic. I thank you, or my co-hosts thank you, and the cats thank you. Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a dork living in Portland, Oregon, who spent too many years listening to podcasts and not doing anything creative. This is my attempt to rectify that, to create and contribute something where I talk to people about their cultural obsessions and try to give some recommendations of my own. Welcome to Giving the Mic to the Wrong Person.
Because
I'm telling you, I went and saw, there's this group that I love. They're called the Hot Club of Cowtown. They play hot jazz, but they also do it.
God, I haven't heard that name in forever.
Hot Club of Cowtown?
Hot Club of Cowtown.
So they're an interesting group because they do what's called hot jazz. So Django Reinhardt is one of the primary examples of hot jazz.
But that's 1920s level.
Yes.
It's awesome.
Yes. It's great. I love it. But they also mix in Western swing, which is really, really fun. But
wow.
I went and saw them. There's this new jazz club where there's the Jack London, the bar underneath the Rialto, the pool hall in Portland.
Right, which is surprisingly still open.
They've turned it into a jazz club underneath. And it's a great place to have a jazz club, but this sound guy was awful, and it's it didn't seem like he didn't know what he was doing, but it's this. It seemed like he didn't know how to mic, because they're a 3-piece group. It's just a bass, a guitar, and a woman who plays fiddle and sings.
Yeah,
and it just sounded awful for about 20-30 minutes of their set. They played for 2 hours, which is great.
He just didn't know how to make the girl that sings and plays.
Well, I don't know what his deal was, but here's the thing: is there was a local group. There's this guy named Mel Brown who's a jazz drummer. He's a local. I mean, he's hot shit.
Is he cute?
Well, I mean, if you like older gentlemen, yeah, I would say. I mean, he's well put together and he's an excellent jazz drummer. If that gets that gets your fire roaring,
gets the floodgates open.
But amorous hour with Natasha. Anyway, he played with Stevie Wonder. He played with a bunch of Motown groups. I mean, he's a big deal. And his group played, and they sounded terrific because they play there probably once a week, I would guess. And then the other group, the guy just fucking fell asleep,
Probably just got too distracted by his girlfriend or his beer not being ordered.
Well, he looked like Kyle Gass from Tenacious D. So I didn't see a girlfriend in the vicinity.
Oh.
But,
it's even worse then.
Anyway.
Sorry.
Enough about jazz
Welcome
clubs.
to Giving to the Mic to the Wrong Person.
It's me.
Jeremy.
No, I meant.
Sorry.
And we're on a rare late night recording session here.
We're a little toasty.
2 guests have joined once again. Guests, please introduce yourself to the listening audience if you would.
I'm Natasha. I'm a resident fangirl and the worst person on this podcast.
I'm Garrett. And I always thought of myself as the worst person on this podcast. And
until you met me.
I'm going to challenge you to a duel.
Yes.
I'm also a Pisces.
I'm a Scorpio.
Dang.
And we're recording in a rare late weeknight recording just because I, as usual, forgot to plan these things. And then our original guest fell through. Or, well, not so much fell through, more like needed more advance notice than my forgetful ass got rumored to give them. So we had a last little minute, and they were up for coming over to record something, seeing as how everyone's schedule won't be working out for a bit. And so we wound up, after a lot of topic ping-ponging, among other things, I got everybody to watch. We all sat down.
You didn't have to get us there. We all wanted to watch the new Star Trek.
We all watched the first little Star Trek pilot opening prologue thing for Discovery, the little 2-parter. So, having just finished that, and this is an extremely spoiler-heavy show. If you're listening to this, you more than likely have seen it already. If not, feel free to listen in and Yeah. So
Please.
This is kind of
Spoil
classic
yourself.
giving the mic that we're
right.
just
Yeah.
talking a bit of about some just nerd shit.
We
Okay.
are the wrong people for the Star Trek podcast, aren't we?
Given the number of Star Trek podcasts out there, I think we're just fine.
I cosplay as Natasha Yar, and also I want to do an Andorian eventually, so I think I have a little bit of credibility.
You seem to know a lot about Star Trek.
How amenable are you to a lot of blue makeup?
Lots and lots of blue makeup. Actually, I want to douse myself in blue makeup, and I want to make the antlers for the Andorians that actually move in bidirectional, so that you can actually make them seem like cool.
Antennae?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you could have some little gewgaws in your hands that you could, when you move your hands, they could move.
I think that's how they make them work in real cosplay.
Whereas I think the only Star Trek cosplay I've ever been was the zombie walk in 2009, where I went as a zombie red shirt crewman.
Very appropriate.
I wasn't there for that, but I remember photographs of that.
Yeah, that was fun.
All red shirts will die.
Hell, at some point we all will, unless we live on forever in syndication. Speaking of syndication, I think before we launch into our thoughts on this is a kind of like reaction cast, as it were. Also, I guess we can do a general Star Trek cast because, no time like the present.
Do you want me to explain my history with Star Trek?
If you would, please.
I would absolutely love that. So I am a late cum checker, and that is in my late 20s, 30s. So I finally watched all of the series except for The Next Generation all the way through. I am going to be the first to say that I've watched the first 3 seasons of Next Generation, but I haven't continued through it. I watched the fun stuff that you all can quote. But my favorites are obviously Deep Space Nine, because that is when Roddenberry was dead and he no longer cared about war. The writers no longer cared about war, and they couldn't make it a taboo subject anymore, so they had PTSD episodes. And then we have Voyager, which I've watched all the way through, which is great, but the first season suck. And that's the one with the space mom? Yeah, Space Mom. Okay. We call her Captain Mommy Pants. And there's coffee in that nebula. You have to do the New England accent. I don't know how to do that very well.
The Mid-Atlantic.
Like the Pepperidge Farm remembers that.
Exactly. And do that when say coffee in the nebula. And then I've watched Enterprise twice now. And Enterprise is my favorite. I am that girl that has listened to the Enterprise opening song over and over again. And you're going to have to cut to that, Jeremy. You're going to have to cut to it.
It's been a long road getting from there to here.
He's shaking his head right now. He does not want to put that
cut now
in there.
Enterprise debuted around the same month as September the 11th. So that's
some good dating for you, because when that I'm sure when that fucking opening song played, people were like crying and being like, "Why is this my new Star Trek? Why do I have to put up with this every fucking week?"
It was kind of like, it was very proto. This was before UPN and the WB combined into the CW. It was a very as most of you have heard this, who are listening now, you probably remember how it was a very proto CW opening theme for the early aughts.
Well, my favorite part of that, I'm gonna introduce you here a little bit. I'm sorry, but the best part of that opening season of Enterprise was the fact that they rubbed decontamination gel all over themselves.
Nice.
And it was like glitter gel from like Victoria's Secrets. And they had to put it on the dog, because Admiral Archer has a dog, beagle.
A beagle, yeah.
Yeah, and it's actually referenced in the new Trek, like the new movies, that he has a dog. And Scotty, who is now played by,
Simon Pegg.
Was like, I accidentally transported the dog into a different world. Anyway, so decontaminant gel on a dog, and it's all Victoria's Secret stuff under a blue light, and they're rubbing it all over each other.
Is it anything like
it's Baywatch style?
Okay, I was wondering
it's
if
bad.
it was like, do you remember the second Matrix movie where they have this kick-ass rave at the beginning for no reason?
The rave orgy,
yeah, that was so
it's
bizarre.
Basically that, but with decontaminant gel.
All over, like,
keep saying that word over and over again.
And we've cast the instead of they followed up from Voyagers to like, okay, the standout, like, you know, hot member of the crew is also, you know, we're gonna have the hot outsider alien. Hopes if I pronounced that correctly. Only this time, instead of her being kind of a reconditioned Borg, she's gonna be, okay, screw it. You know, we'll have she'll be a hot lady Vulcan.
She's a Vulcan. And T'Pol is one of my favorite characters in all of Star Trek. And I have to say, like, she does Jolene Blalock.
Yes.
And she stands very tall and, like, speaks really smoothly and, like, has this whole kind of, like, standoffish vibe to her. I love it. And she has the best relationship with Trip. Like, so, okay. I'm just outing myself as a Trip and T'Pol shipper right now, but like,
was Trip the
Trip's the engineer?
Oh, he's the engineer, not
Yeah.
the redneck doctor. Okay.
He's the redneck engineer, and the doctor is Phlox, and Phlox is like the neoliberal,
Okay.
like glasses wearing, like cool doctor. I don't know if he's not only neoliberal, but he was like the same guy that played certain parts of like shows in the 90s, like I can't remember the actor's name, but you'll have to look it up.
I'm totally lost. So.
Sorry.
This is
Watch
excellent.
Enterprise. It is fucking porn for eyes, and there's like a terrorist attack on Florida, which is like the most ridiculous shit you've ever heard of.
Yeah, no one wants to attack Florida.
No one. Yeah.
I feel like when you're talking about this, like I've been
You're like, what?
I've been Star Trek transported
into a world.
into a conversation.
I'm flipping you off right now. You can't see this in the audience, but I'm flipping Garrett off.
What did I do wrong?
Nothing. Never mind.
Nothing at all. Nothing at all.
Why am I getting?
Because
Let's talk about the goddamn show.
Okay, we'll talk about the show.
Well, talk about, okay, Garrett, your particular history, your particular Star Trek history.
Darmok
So-
and Tanab.
Yeah, Darmok and is it Damrock or Darmok?
Darmok and
Darmok.
Jalad.
And Jalad and
Tanagra.
Tanagra. That's an episode I like a lot. So I have, and it shouldn't. If anyone's listened to the show, it shouldn't come as a surprise. Probably the least experience with Star Trek. I like it. I've always enjoyed watching it, but I've never really, really barnacled onto it.
Right.
But mostly what I've seen is Next Generation, and then and a good chunk of the original series, and then the one I liked the best, though I didn't watch very much of it, was Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
And then I have watched no other bit of it. I saw the first reboot movie, enjoyed it, and then haven't seen any of the other reboot films.
That's cool that you haven't seen any of the reboot movies, because a lot of people would say that you're better off for them.
I'm better off for having
For
not
not seeing
having
them.
not seen them.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't know, but I just don't have, like, sci-fi was not like a thing that my family was interested in, so I was the most interested in it, and as talking to people who like sci-fi, I was not very interested in it,
Well,
evidently.
I grew up in a Star Wars family, so you weren't allowed to watch Star Trek
Oh shit.
because Star Wars was more important. How about you, Jeremy?
I went to space camp when I was 13
Even better.
and got my first set of Lego space, of classic space Legos when I was 6 years old. So it's kind of, and then eventually went off to Ann Arbor to go get an aerospace engineering degree.
That's what I was
So-
just about to say. You have an aerospace engineering degree.
Right, so it was kind of, it's kind of in my blood. My background, my dad loved the stuff. My dad was an English teacher. Also, my dad, now he's now retired. He and my mom are retired teachers living outside of Knoxville. Always into the stuff. I grew up watching original series in syndication.
Cool.
Was the perfect age for also watched original series in syndication. We had HBO growing up, so I watched all the movies on HBO. It was the perfect age when Next Gen started, right when I was in junior high, and I can remember my very first Star Trek convention that we went to in Novi, Michigan, with my dad and my younger brother and I. This would have been, I think, like spring of '88 or so.
Wow.
88, 89 or so.
Right before the Next Generation started in '89, right?
It was the first season.
Yeah.
First season or so. So it was, and then but my thing was. Yeah, no, my series was Next Generation because it was kind of that was my art.
It just came out at the perfect spot for you.
Yeah, I think, and it ended right as I think right as my senior year of high school, and then I think after the other series was only watched a little, watched Deep Space Nine on and off, but like once I went off to undergrad, I barely watched any syndicated TV. I was mainly watching like Conan O'Brien and Comedy Central and MST3K.
I think we're all in that phase of watching Comedy Central as a thing.
Yeah, and so barely watched DS9. Barely saw only like a handful of episodes of Voyager.
I can't believe you have not watched Voyager all the way through. It's a dark time, but
yeah, that's
appreciate
probably why. Also, I remember, the only reason I remember Enterprise when that started was that I was unemployed. Had moved, my lease had ended, had moved home to the parents' house back in Flint, and my brother and I watched like the first couple episodes about that. That was, like I said, August, September of 2001.
Yeah,
and those were some dark times.
It was a weird time, and also that show. Again, we'll have to cut into the fucking music because you'll appreciate it, Garrett. It's so fucking awful.
I hope so.
Mm-hmm.
It's a dude with an acoustic.
Yep.
Okay.
It's
I can sing it when I'm drunk, but I'm not quite drunk yet.
Yeah.
Sing it anyway. Just
No.
kidding. Don't sing it.
Not gonna happen.
Just
the name of the song is "Faith of the Heart."
mm-hmm.
That sounds perfect. Yeah, there is a reason.
I wrote a song called "Faith of the Heart." Just kidding. I didn't.
There's a reason why Enterprise only got 4 seasons instead of the
Is that Bon Jovi?
No, you couldn't. UPN didn't have Bon Jovi money.
What, they just got his Mexican equivalent?
Yeah.
Get me Steven Spielberg. He's unavailable. Then get me his non-union Mexican equivalent.
Yeah,
But
I did not mean to do that right now.
I had to get
but I had to
get a Simpsons reference in.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Steven Spielberg go.
Yeah. Steven Spielberg to go.
So Jacob's not here, so I have to do the air horn equivalent and
See-
play that song on YouTube.
Anyway, so now, like I said, so all the hoopla came out like, hey, or I guess for and I have seen every Star Trek film.
Yeah.
At least fortunately the last 2 I saw at the Cheapies, and seeing them at the Cheapies, I think I got for the latest one that had Idris Elba.
Yeah.
Idris Elba, that one was okay. The second one, the one that had Benedict Cumberbatch in, that one sucked, like hilariously bad. It was great.
Can we go on a Benedict Cumberbatch aside just for a moment?
Yeah.
Certainly, why not?
What do y'all think of him?
Great at what he can do.
And he's got a narrow scope, right?
Right.
And so I find that there's this weird adoration of Benedict Cumberbatch, like he's this amazing actor, and it's like he's a good actor.
No, he just looks weird and looks like and girls like
I
guys
just
that
don't.
look weird.
I just don't understand it.
Girls like Ingbo, especially if they're English guys like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like this is the hill I'm dying on, which is the number one term of art right now.
No, I've used that in my last podcast.
Yeah,
so
no,
thank you.
it's all the rage. I feel this way about Leonardo DiCaprio. A fine actor, not a great actor. I don't know why people want to treat him like
I
he's
would
a
not
great actor.
die on a hill for
He can do
Leonardo.
2 things. He can smolder, and he can and he can be really angry, and that's really what he's got. And I'm tired of people saying he's great. He's fine, but he's not great. And that's the way I feel about Benedict Cumberbatch. The end.
Okay, I agree with you completely. So Benedict Cumberbatch has a little bit of the walleye syndrome going on. He looks like a fish, like a flounder. Like his eyes go 2 different
Or a
directions.
walleye.
Walleyes, yeah. But I just was trying to describe it to you so you didn't question it. So the thing about Benedict is he's not that great looking of an actor, but he has a unique face.
Mm-hmm. Very unique.
And a lot of
I mean,
women are
unique.
attracted to unique faces, not necessarily good looking faces. And I think that's part of his appeal.
Story of my life.
So we talked about Sherlock way back when, in the first episode I showed up into, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that women were attached to that, and the whole John Locke shipping shit. But Sherlock is what they're shipping themselves with, and John is their self-insert. And I don't know. I did a lot of Doctor Strange drawing and just because I like Doctor Strange. I don't know.
I enjoyed the film.
The film was dumb, and it was kind of late stage Marvel, but it was also kind of late stage Marvel psychedelia. which I appreciated because
Right.
I think they actually went to like the idea of Doctor Strange and psychedelic and music wise and film wise, and like they try to base it on Fantasia, where like the whole idea was that you get a really big visual insert into it.
Mm-hmm.
So he's one of my favorite Marvel actors now, which is me outing myself again and again and again as a Marvel whore. But that's the appeal. And so he's not like great looking, but he has an appeal. Like,
Oh no, I get it.
I would say I wouldn't use the term horror. It's like it's not only if you are paid to do it on like your own special YouTube channel.
Marvel, pay me.
Yeah, it's like, hey everybody, thanks for tuning in again. We're going to be doing an unboxing video of this today.
I want to unbox my real doll of Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah.
Oh, can I get a real doll? Really?
No,
Sure, why not?
Wait for the Patreon to take off first, then before we can
Yeah,
expense
here's
any
the
of that.
thing.
Hello, listeners.
You get
You can fund my real doll of Benedict Cumberbatch, and I'll take video of it.
you get lonely dudes to buy your real doll for you.
You know, it's start.
And then premium. You talk to the real doll.
No, I have a Twitch channel
Like
where
the
I
dudes who paid for the
show-
real doll want you to talk to them, but you won't. And then like you turn to the camera. And
No, I talk to the
and
doll.
talk to them about how they're. That's what I'm saying. You talk to the doll, and then you tell the real people watching that they're filth, and then they just give you more money.
Damn. Thank you, Garrett.
and
I have a new marketing strategy right now.
and thus young Natasha was introduced to the world of findoming.
Yeah, findom.
I actually kind of want to findom.
I think every woman should findom for a little bit of time. That's what I think.
Certainly one way to make money back for emotional labor.
Speaking of findoming, Star Trek, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, Star Trek. All right. So I will say that it had some. You know, it was somewhere between like not caring and slightly apprehensive of like, oh look, they're bringing it back to a
CBS.
to a TV series, and like except it's not. It's still premium streaming, which is maybe as opposed, which is weird because like just put it on Netflix. It's gonna be like Yahoo. It's gonna
It'll
be like Yahoo
on
Screen.
Hulu in 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty high quality for streaming only. Like it had a real like premium television sort of look to it. So
Yeah.
should we like pedal back a little bit and like actually talk about what it's about, or
Yeah, we can explain what happened in the first Star Trek, but I don't think we really need to.
Let's. Where do you want to start at? Where should we start at?
well, I don't know.
We should start at the fact that there is like some weird racial subtext with the fact that there's a white Klingon that like has to like deal with the whole part about being white in a very like.
It seems like they do want to have some sort of conversation about, I would guess, contemporary
Racism.
racism
which
But reverse it. White
Right.
man's burden.
well, the not exactly. Star Trek is pretty much I mean Star Trek has been shot through with like kind of like definitely like Kennedy era progressivism from like the very start.
Well,
Absolutely.
right. I mean,
And so they've always had like either like full on just episodes talking about race, if not between that would all wander back and forth between text and subtext.
Captain, you ought to be congratulated. Never before has Lokai been rendered so quiescent.
I will not return to Charon with him, to a land of murdering oppressors.
I told you where you were going. I allowed your fellow countrymen here simply as a courtesy. And you see how this killer repays you, as he repays all his benefactors.
Benefactors. He's a liar. He raided our homes, tore us from our families, herded us together like cattle, and then sold us as slaves.
They were savages, Captain. We took them into our hearts, our homes. We educated them.
Yes, just education enough to serve the master race.
You were the product of our love. You repaid us with murder.
Why should a slave show mercy to the enslaver?
Slaves. That was changed thousands of years ago. You were freed.
Freed? Were we free to be men?
well,
My
there was.
favorite part about this was the race and culture comment. I don't know if you can quote that directly. But
I don't remember it well enough to quote it, but
The Federation and the Klingon Empire have always been on the cold side of war. We've had only fleeting run-ins with them for a century, and now you presume to know their motivation because it is in their nature? Considering your background, I would think you're the last person to make assumptions based on race.
With respect, it would be unwise to confuse race and culture.
It's in the first episode, and they talk about, well, it's race versus culture because Klingons, their culture is about violence. They're battle-worn soldiers, warriors.
Right. Well, I guess I just, it really seemed like that aspect of it, they were really trying to hammer home. And I understand that was always an aspect of, like, I mean, there was the classic Star Trek episode of the people that were one color on one side.
Oh, yeah.
Was it black and white?
They're black and white reversed.
So that was always an aspect. And, of course, famously, the first interracial kiss on television was on Star Trek.
Right.
Spock and Uhura.
But I do think that in this one that we were watching, it seemed like the listeners should know that we were not really focused watching it. We were watching it.
No, we were focused watching it.
We were watching it with active commentary. How about that?
We were not being quiet. I will say that much.
And it did take me most of the first episode to remember to turn the subtitles on so we could actually like get the dialogue.
Right.
Like, whatever.
It's okay. I mean, we watched most of the Klingon dialogue, and it was not. My Klingon dialogue is Deep Space Nine version of it with Worf and Jadzia Dax. And Jadzia Dax was able to kind of like overcome everything because she had lived many lives, and part of her lives had been with the Klingons. Mm-hmm. And so she knew their stories and mythology, and she was able to kind of inculcate herself with that culture because of that. And she was able to marry Worf because of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying. Like,
I don't know that much about it. I'm sorry.
It's a
later. These are later
episodes.
Later plot lines on DS9.
Later plot lines, later episodes, and then she died because she wanted to join a show with some kind of douchebag on television, Decker or something like that. I don't know what it's called.
But not Tim Heidecker's Decker.
No, Tim Heidecker's Decker is perfect.
Was it Becker?
Becker. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What, with Ted Danson?
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
Yeah, she actually quit the show to go to Becker, and so she died in the show, and Worf was obviously upset. But Worf is a huge character, right?
Mm-hmm.
Worf got...
Literally, he was like six foot.
Big guy.
Yeah.
Well, not just... Michael Dorn is huge, right? But he's also, like, he was one of the best parts of Next Generation, and he's also one of the best parts of Deep Space Nine. He bridged the gap between those two shows and made them cool. And I'm pausing here for a moment because I'm like, that was a good way to show that story happening, right? Like, the Klingons to the humans. Like the story.
Are you talking about Deep Space Nine
or Discovery?
Okay.
But Discovery does it in the first 5 minutes.
Let's do overall impressions.
Yeah.
Screw the premise. The premise is it's a prequel show. Okay, go.
Yeah. So one thing I thought was that it started. What I was saying when we were watching it felt like it started in the second half of Act 2 of something. So it's a lot of action. And I guess that's pretty cool. And there's a lot of exposition through dialogue, which we all commented upon about how we have to
pilots do that.
Yeah, we have to be forgiving of it a little bit because it's a pilot,
and it was very, very pilot. The dialogue was very piloty.
Yeah. And as I will say, as someone that like I've enjoyed a fair amount of Star Trek stuff, but I would not say that I'm deep in it. I even found the exposition and the dialogue to be a little bit tiresome, and it bothers me that we're in this era of storytelling, and we kind of talked about it in the last episode, where everybody knows at very least that the thing exists, and that I think when they're making these shows, the hope is that it's going to catch fire, people are going to think it's cool, but the people who are going to think it's cool are the people that weren't
on the basis of its own self, right? Like, it's Star Trek, so you have to love it.
It has inertia, right? But what they're trying to do is not pull in Star Trek fans because they know they have those people. They're trying to pull in people that
a broader audience
are on the periphery, right?
Because this was
at very least on the periphery,
right?
And so one of the things I've noticed that they do, not just in this but in other things, is that they treat it with this really. I mean, I find it to be this really heavy-handed reverence of what came before.
Absolutely.
And it's not for the people who love it. You think it's for the people who love it, but I think it's for the new people.
Right.
It's for people that go, "Oh, it's a Klingon." Like me.
Well, I think it's so that when people are watching it, they try to set a tone where they're saying, "This is really important." And then the thing is that
it's lost on you if you don't have any kind of narrative influence.
But
you don't have any subtext for it.
My point is it's not that important. At some level, it should just be fun, and I feel like they're losing that. Like, how do we make this fun? Like, I didn't find it fun at all.
It's paying fan service without any kind of service.
Well, I don't know what that means, but
or you mean it was like trying to go for like immediately digging into trying to be like building like being like momentous, or
well, like so it's
having getting this trying to accumulate gravity to it, or
yes, that's exactly right.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Like, so what they're trying to do is give it this gravitas.
Right, there we go. Gravitas, not gravity.
But I mean, same diff.
Same difference.
Yeah. So for people who like Star Trek, they don't need that gravitas. Like they are on board. Like they're going to criticize it, but they'll watch the whole fucking thing.
Right, just for the genre indulgence.
But I would say that it works both ways, though, because I think with the Klingons, like the way that they presented them, and so this is where we got into a little bit of a kind of a contextual canonical argument, was like, okay, this only takes place 10 years before New Trek.
Right. Well, 10 years before original series. Yeah, Kirk and Spock.
And so, but it's past Enterprise. And for me, seeing the Klingons as they are, I'm like, immediately like, they are built into the canon of New Trek. So we're obviously on a timeline that feels like it has importance within the new Trek. They don't have any like solidarity with canon before it. So Enterprise and TOS as they are, who knows how they're going to actually make that happen.
I think according to the showrunners, all the hype was talking about how they're trying to figure out a way how to like insert this into the classic continuity.
Yeah.
Rather than, because that's the thing is like, because the Abrams movies, they're off doing whatever their own thing.
But they're still part of this, right? Like, I mean, we've got like 10% lens flare on everything.
Well, I think Abrams, they take I think look and feel, and directly, and there are spots where you get plenty of lens flare. Yes, there are definitely shots that are straight, like the camera rotates. Or I should say, the camera not just rotates, but it rolls.
It rolls.
Yeah,
you're getting like 360 degree, like 270 degree rolls. And let me
just say, like, the opening is great. Sonequa is wonderful. Doug Jones is the best part of the show as a science officer because he completely questions everything. And Michelle Yeoh's character is great. I have no problems with the idea of it. I just want to know how it works cohesively, because to me, a show like this does not work without a crew. A crew has to be cohesive. You have to have an engineering section. You have to have a medical section. You have to have a bridge. And so if you don't have all of those cohesive units, it doesn't make any sense to me. If you have one character that you're following the story of, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think.
You mean from the main character versus the ensemble crew?
Exactly.
Okay.
And we don't have, as of the first 2 episodes, you don't have an ensemble crew. Like, they all get...
They're working their way into it, but I feel like I don't quite know who's going to live and die, so I don't really care about any of them.
Well, I mean, it seems like, from what we saw, the only person who makes it out is the gal from Walking Dead and Doug Jones.
And I think, like I said, I don't know who else. Like, I don't know how many of the bridge crew who aren't really given much to do because they're just
red shirts.
Yeah, they're effectively red shirts in ensigns and such. I don't know.
So you get a ton of red shirts, right? And then the other main character who will come back is Spock's dad,
Sarek.
Yeah. And
Sarek,
that's how much I fucking know about Star Trek.
No, I think that knowing Sarek is a good part because Sarek is one of the most important characters in all of Star Trek.
But it seems like he's definitely going to come back in this show.
Yeah.
And almost everybody else have no certainty that they're going to come back.
Actually, I don't even know if they have to. They're going to. Check that. He's not listed in the. I'm going off of the IMDb listings, which are inadequate. So, it's. I don't know how often he's going to be coming back, but
he probably won't be coming back that frequently. But the idea that this is my favorite part of it, right? Like, so I told you my favorite character was T'Pol, and I love Vulcan women because I feel like this is part of Star Trek culture that's not really explored, is the idea of a science-minded woman that's very science-minded and very logical. But you have Sonequa Green's character, who's obviously she's a human, but she was raised in Vulcan. She's raised in Vulcan pods. She's raised in Vulcan community.
Raised on Vulcan. Yeah.
Raised on Vulcan. Adopted by Sarek. And she has to deal with that kind of landscape being a human emotional being. So Spock was given like the certainty of being not just human, but also he was half Vulcan. So he had that in his brain and mind all like his life. But having your human emotional side be dominant and not that, but you're a woman growing up in that Vulcan environment, that's pretty fucking cool. Like, I think that's a really great start for a character and a great idea. I just don't know if it was explored fully because, again, like, they make her have mutiny on her captain in the first episode, and they're constantly deferring to the idea that she's been with her captain for 7 years. And
we're told of her history repeatedly, but you can't exactly be.
You don't get any idea of it, right?
Yeah, it it was like they're shoving everything into like 80 odd minutes of screen time.
Exactly, and the whole idea that she's also like obviously she's kind of racially influenced by the fact that the Klingons killed her parents before she was adopted by Sarek, and that's in itself a weird kind of thing because I know that every Star Trek character has a racial influence, right? If you think about it, like
influence or prejudice.
Prejudice.
Okay.
That's a good point. We think about like Sisko, like hates Picard because he was a Borg when he killed his wife.
Right.
So he has a thing against the Borg. Bakula's character in Enterprise, Archer, has a thing against Vulcans because Vulcans kept the space race from happening. Like when the humans wanted to go to space, the Vulcans were like, we're going to keep you down so you don't go out too soon, too fast.
Right.
So take that with you if you want.
Yeah,
because they don't like.
I'll stop ranting.
The human emotions.
No, you're fine.
Well, so
Sonequa Martin Green. I'm sorry if I said your name wrong.
So she does fine. All the acting's fine. The thing, well, I already remarked upon the thing that I've noticed, and it could be just one of those things that I think is there but isn't, but it's this, we're supposed to have reverence for this just because they tell us we're supposed to have reverence for it. And oh shit, there was some other aspect of it that I teased out that I think I may have lost the thread on.
Which were you thinking about?
Oh, I don't
just
remember.
to say it. Don't worry about like actually speaking into recording. Just tell me.
No. I think I literally can't remember.
Yeah.
What would you rate the episode?
Like on a scale of 1 to 5, I'd give it 3, maybe 2 and some change. I don't know.
I think it's a 2 and a change thing. It's like 2.5. And it was an opening episode, and so the second episode would get probably more of like a 3 or 4.
Yeah, second episode stuff actually happens.
Yeah.
I would give it about, I think, both of them together because I mean it's like Encounter at Farpoint. It's like it's a 2-parter.
Exactly. Like you can't judge until you see the space jellyfish floating in sky.
Right. And John Delancey with the weird hat.
Yeah.
And I actually have a John Delancey action figure over in the other room because I found him at a.
Can I take him home with me?
No, he is the only next. No, actually, I take it back. I have the entire. It's still unopened because I never actually opened it. I have the entire next gen Pez dispenser set.
Does his head stick on top of a Pez dispenser?
I don't think. John Delancey. I don't think ever actually got a Pez dispenser.
Yeah.
Much to the loss of civilization. I think my view of the show is like it was okay. It was like, okay, there's something there. Some people care about it, but it was kind of a thing where it was, I don't know, at least from all of the, it was like more, it was closer to say the pilot for original series of like The Cage rather than say like Encounter at Farpoint, which was next gen because. And I tell you that because of the piloty, the piloty for the original series was like we're kind of on the same ship. It's the same ship. Some of the characters are the same. Spock is there, but it's like most of the crew is going to be changed. You get the basic idea of like this is what Star Trek is, as opposed
all
to
their roles will be changed eventually.
Yeah, as opposed to say like Encounter at Farpoint, which is later. They keep the first episode. You have the ship is the same, the crew is the same. Now we're going to go off and do our very first thing rather than change it up.
Have you ever watched The Cage from the TOS?
Not that I recall.
It's on Netflix, and I think it's important to watch that.
It's just it's very different. I think they shot it in like 1964 or something. It's like Spock looks weird.
Well, Majel Barrett is like the second in command of the captain, and the captain gets lost in this kind of. He beams down into this new territory, ends up being enraptured in this vision dream thing that's happening, and Majel Barrett is the second in command, and obviously Gene Roddenberry's wife eventually.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I would say I was disappointed that the Siri voice on the new New Trek, unfortunately, even in the reboot, is.
It has been that way since.
But Majel Barrett is like there's at least it's like computers should sound like like Majel Barrett. It's and then unfortunately in the series it's more of a Siri voice, and I was disappointed because I'm pedantic, but whatever.
No, I'm right there with you because Michelle was part of that, right? She was kind of a part of the series. Did you ever see any of her episodes?
I don't know.
Okay. Have you ever seen like Luxwana Troy?
Luxwana Troy.
Sure. That's a name I know.
Big Betazoid eyes with the dark.
Yeah, horny old lady as she would.
Captain Troy. Gotcha.
Yeah.
The Captain Troy?
No, she was the
empath.
Yes.
Empath.
Yeah.
Sure.
Majel Barrett played the empath's mother.
I should warn you, sir. My mother is a little eccentric.
Where is everyone?
Oh, I hate that. Hello, Mother.
No, don't say it. Think it. Use your mind, not your mouth.
Hello, Mother.
Diana, shame. What has this life done to you?
No. Don't tell me. You're the captain.
Of course. Your daughter has explained your telepathic abilities.
Now, that wasn't telepathy. It was just common sense. Who else would they send to greet me but the captain?
Oh, you may carry my luggage.
Mother?
Who would always come to... she'd always have like 1 or 2 episodes per
She would make Captain Picard feel uncomfortable all the time.
That was...
Yeah, she was trying to get with Picard.
She wanted to fuck him real hard.
Are those the episodes where he wore his like flirty little skirt thing? I'm just kidding, but
I want to believe.
That was from I think freshman year. A guy on my dorm floor who was from Panama City talked about how they brought her to. They put on a con there, and they brought her to it, and they said that she was just fucking hilarious. Like she was, dirty old lady, but like just full of stories, and just cursing her head off and just telling the funniest stories too. So at least from that account, I'm guessing Luxwana Troy was a very thinly veiled version of who Majel Barrett was in real life.
Okay,
which is something that makes me happy.
Captain, even Zeno never had such thoughts about me. You may energize.
That was meant as a joke, Captain.
I was not amused.
Actually, I would love to believe that she was that person.
Yeah. Another thing about it's more of a criticism of modern TV than anything else, but it's like they were doing it in this thing where like so the person who's our main protagonist, which is I'm sorry, what's the woman's name again?
Sonequa Martin Green.
That one.
Yeah.
Michael Braham, I think her name was.
Michael. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, Michael.
Her name is Michael. So every show has some, you have some troubled character with a dark backstory, and you figure, you find out what it is. And,
well, especially women. Women always have a troubled backstory.
Maybe that's right. I don't know, but
it's the only way that they get to the top.
I find it a little tiresome, and it's something that is.
I like to
kind of
person.
off-putting about prestige TV for me right now is like we can't. I don't know. The thing about Star Trek that I liked was that is that these people have themselves figured out. You know what I mean? And
I agree with you completely.
And they're put into these scenarios where they're tested, right? Mm-hmm. But they have their core, they have their conviction, and
Right.
and then to take
So-
they do it with everything. I mean,
The
like,
deep psychological cut does not have to happen in the first episode.
well, it doesn't have to happen at all.
If it happens, it happens.
Like the whole point of like we were just talking about the new Superman movies, and,
Yeah.
and it's like we don't need a tortured Superman. It's okay if Superman's persecuted because society doesn't understand him, but he doesn't need to be tortured.
Yeah.
And I'm tired of it. I saw that happening. So we're supposed to have this deeply conflicted character that she's a human who's raised by Vulcans, and that it's somehow
She hates Klingons.
It's somehow meaningful to her to be like a Vulcan, but there's no reason to suppose why that would be the case, because she, like the dude, Spock's dad, say his name
Sarek.
again, Sarek, is not nice to her. He's not kind to her. I mean, we have this
He's a Vulcan. He's
we have
not
this
kind.
notion that he raised her, and that I guess she has some sort of debt that she owes there, but it's like
I agree with you
I
completely.
don't see it. I don't understand. Like you have to have this conflicted protagonist. You have to have this anti-hero.
So what I think you're hitting the nail on the head of is the fact that she doesn't have any internality. She doesn't have any internal intention. Like, her stuff is all based on whether or not, like, her parents died by Klingons or whether she decided to be in Starfleet. And she doesn't have any kind of, like, impetus in the sense of she's raised by Vulcans, but that's all a very logical-based society, and they don't have any emotional internality. If we don't see throughout this series that she has an emotional base, like she has a connection to her life and her reality, then she will be kind of an empty character. And if you're seeing her at this very basis as what she is, like, she's empty.
Well, yeah, I guess I think I agree with you. Like there's this aspect to which, like, we're being shown that she's a human raised by Vulcans, and that that is supposed to be some sort of constituent part of her inner conflict. But I guess I
don't know. I think, it's some of the stuff is just, I think if nothing else, it seems like so much of it can be attributed to the fact that we've seen the pilot, and
Yeah, we saw the pilot.
Yeah, historically,
And never the pilot is good. Never.
well, it's pretty disappointing. It's usually kind of like, well, I guess that's a start, but that's the thing is, it's, historically Star Trek series take like a year. It takes a season to really start. Even like The Simpsons took a season.
I can speak to that. Like, I watched Voyager and for 7 years of it,
Oh, dear.
and I watched all of Enterprise twice. So that should be 8 years, really. And I loved all of it, and I dealt with all of it. And I think a lot of it too is just knowing that there's an end to it, except for the end of Enterprise, which should be written out of history. I don't believe it exists.
Is he nervous?
Wouldn't you be?
Oh, he'll be fine. I had to memorize this speech in grammar school. You wish you could tell them all that this alliance will give birth to the Federation.
I think I'm ready to talk to Captain Picard. I should have done it a long time ago.
So I guess we're through here.
I guess we are. Computer? End program.
There is a fat Riker and a fat Troy that show up at the end. I swear to God, I'm not joking with you. Like, they're literally in the holosuite, reliving the end of the Enterprise.
Yeah, computer in program.
It's horrible. And Trip dies, and it's awful.
Well,
Fuck you, writers. Fuck you.
all I'll say is, someone who's not that invested in Star Trek, I am in no way compelled to keep watching this Star Trek.
We'll see what happens. I mean,
I'll watch it, but I know that you wouldn't.
I'm not going to, and I don't watch all sorts of shit. So
It's
what
fine.
does that mean?
Yeah,
I completely agree with you. Like, the Klingons are kind of a mess. They're great, but they're also kind of racially charged in a way that I don't want to really associate
I will
with.
say the Klingons I had no problem with.
A lot of them was like, it was a mix of, there was like, wow.
Sorry to disagree. I'm not,
No, absolutely not disagreeing.
There's a lot of Lord of, they're even more orkier than like ever.
Yeah.
Like doing just, that's the thing, is like some of the visual design, it's like, wait, how do you tell if you, it's like telling the characters apart.
I just can't tell the characters apart, and that's the problem with me. Like, I don't give a shit.
They have 13 episodes. We'll see what they can do.
We can see what they can do.
I'll hope for recaps from y'all, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to keep watching it.
We're not going to fill you in. Could you do a rec section?
I wouldn't have even started watching it if we weren't going to record about it. So
Sorry.
That's true. No, that's fine. No,
Garrett's like, I hate this shit.
I don't hate it. It's just
No, you don't hate it, but you probably are like done with it. Like,
I was curious to see, like, okay, in 2017, and where CBS itself is trying to do this, they're trying to do the Yahoo Screen thing of like, we're going to take this love series, because Yahoo, if you remember Yahoo Screen, they bought the last season of Community on this brand new like streaming network, which kind of died because Yahoo had no idea how to promote a streaming service.
Yep.
Among other things. I don't know. Well, for my thing, I was just curious, like, how do you do a proper, like, not with like the big, huge, every 3 or 4 years, huge, Abrams films. How do you do regular episodic Star Trek in 2017 or 2018 or
I think you do it show-wise.
Whenever you're listening to this.
Don't be an asshole. Put women in it and don't make them all like secondary characters, which they have, like, they've really actually done really well with that, and I believe that they can do well with it, but I also I don't really believe in them, and I don't mean to say that in a mean way. I just mean to say it like, can you do a female-centered narrative? Can you? And
we'll find out.
All
right, let's take a quick break, and we'll be back in a minute.
For recommendations?
Sure. All right, and now it's time for your favorite segment of the show. This is time for recommendations and endorsements and God knows what else. All right, Natasha, you go first.
I will go first, very easily. I will go into American Gods. All you need to do is watch the intro to the show, because it is the most beautiful motion graphics moment in my life. They do a totem pole, but it's all American, and they have cars and rocket ships and neon, and it's beautiful, and it's also Brian Fuller production, and it's also Neil Gaiman, and Neil Gaiman is one of my favorite authors of all time, and I read this book over and over again until it fell apart into my hands because it was so great, and they actually put it into text, like into a beautiful TV show, and Cloris Leachman playing a dark Polish goddess of like the dark.
Yeah, which is what we've always wanted from Cloris Leachman.
And you have Peter Stormare playing like the butcher god.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's also has experience playing Satan before.
Exactly. Constantine is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I will die on that.
Is that a good movie?
Yeah. It's absolutely wonderful.
It is. It actually, I think I haven't seen it since we saw it at the theater. The casting is everything except for I think it would have been far better and had they not cast Keanu as it. Everything else, but the actual script and all the other bits about it actually were very true to.
Yeah, Constantine does not look like Keanu at all. Like in text, he is supposed to look like Sting, so he looks like a
they couldn't
blonde.
Get Sting.
Yeah, but like Keanu plays that part so perfectly. I love him so much.
I like Keanu Reeves a lot.
And Rachel Weisz.
That actually ties in.
So perfect.
I don't actually have recommendations right now.
Okay.
But I'll talk about things that I watched recently.
All right.
Okay.
One I watched for the first time, and the other I saw for the 1000th time. One was Point Break with Keanu Reeves.
You finally watched Point Break?
Finally? Get out of here. I've seen that movie a million times.
Okay. I was trying to own you.
I love that movie, but it is about 20 minutes too long. But it just proves to me that Patrick Swayze,
great actor,
it can do anything he wants, and I love him.
Could do anything he wants.
And the other thing I watched for the first time, we talked about this yesterday, is a little movie called Flashdance.
Oh, dear.
It's the most feminist movie of 1980 something.
Yeah, it was early 80s, and it actually is. It was. I enjoyed it. I thought I would enjoy it, but it's actually a better movie than I thought it was going to be.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I saw Flashdance. I would recommend it, but I don't know that I have any.
Tell me more why you recommend it, though.
Why would
Your lady friend McKendry told you a little bit about it.
Why would I recommend it? Well, I do think that I feel like the character that Jennifer Beals plays is really feels really natural. I feel like, I don't know. It's.
She's trying to be a dancer, but she's also a welder.
Mm-hmm.
And
she's from the working class, but she's got aspirations. It's an underdog story.
But also, I like the idea that you told me that she actually initiates every one of her sexual contacts.
Yeah. So well, that's what the interesting thing about it was that it seems like it was for the time, and I wasn't. I was a child at the time, but
yeah, I was like 8
Pretty
years old when
Woman
it came
was
out.
a big thing then, and Pretty Woman was all about, yes, we'll have sex, but you're a whore.
Yeah. So this was
Pretty Woman actually came like 6 years after.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. This
But
was,
I grew up on that, so I must have watched the same thing at the same time.
So I will say that Flashdance was like very female centered, and that her sexuality was very much in her control in that film, and it wasn't done like they weren't hammering it
as a point.
Yes, like it actually, like McKendry pointed it out to me, friend of the show, that like every sexual encounter that she has with the lead, who is not Chris Sarandon but looks like him.
I want to believe it's Chris Sarandon.
She initiates intimacy every time, and I think that is an interesting point. And how much of that movie was such a cultural touchstone, like all the things like leg warmers and ripped up jeans. I really think ripped up jeans started there, and she lived in this loft, like which was an old warehouse, which is like that was probably a chic thing at the time, but it was just beginning to be. And this is probably the first time like
I always believed
people
it was
in the
South Seattle. I don't know if it was really South Seattle, but
it was Pittsburgh.
It was Pittsburgh.
But
Shit.
watch it. But she has this warehouse space that she's converted to this cool, bachelorette pad.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that was probably like the first time people in the flyover states ever saw that sort of thing. So
yeah.
So it's actually, I can't be certain, cause I'm not going to like get this deep into it, but it really seems like a lot of things that we think of as 80s things started with that movie.
Absolutely.
And,
Well,
I thought that was kind
of a bucket of water on yourself is pretty standard.
yeah. And so I thought it was pretty neat, and it was an interesting thing because like I've gotten really into musicals lately. So, and musicals by that time
was a musical.
Well, they were really starting to die out. So it was a way to have dance numbers in something, like serious choreographed dance numbers that wasn't a musical because people didn't want to see musicals that much anymore. So anyway,
Absolutely.
I liked Flashdance.
Awesome.
I'm happy you did.
I even though I was just barely old enough to be, I think I was 8 or 9 years old when it kind of surfaced. I never actually saw the flick other than it's just kind of like it's pop ephemera. My recommendation it was a film I saw this last Saturday downtown. It was a documentary released in 1971 called "The Murder of Fred Hampton," which is actually it was shot and edited.
Murder.
Yeah, shot and Fred Hampton was was a extremely charismatic. He was a guy who pretty much became chapter head of he was chairman of the Chicago Black Panthers. I think a position that he attained when he was maybe 19 or 20 years old in 1968 or so. And
so we always say at the Black Panther Party that they can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary. And you're going to have to keep on saying that. You're going to have to say that I am a proletarian. I am the people. I'm not the pig. You've got to make a distinction. And the people are going to have to attack the pigs. The people are going to have to stand up against the pigs. That's what the Panthers are doing. That's what the Panthers are doing all over the world.
He was, if you ever get a chance, just go on YouTube and Google Fred Hampton. The film was being edited and released about the same year, but not before the COINTELPRO papers were actually released. And the program that because it's effectively Fred Hampton was murdered in December of 1969 at the age of 21 by kind of like the both the FBI and the Chicago PT working together. And it's not mentioned in the documentary because I think it came out later, but the CPD actually had an informant in the group, the guy who actually wound up drugging Fred Hampton the night because he died in a raid. And it is a lot of just great documentary footage of him both speaking. It's an early 70s documentary, so it's kind of like the rhythms and the editing are slightly different than what we're used to, and I think the pacing is kind of weird at certain parts, but all of the like the most important footage of him, like addressing crowds in Chicago. Yeah, like I said, he was a great guy. It was one of those things where he was one of the ones who really started he was started the Panther, the free breakfast program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which they even had a version of that here in Portland, and there's even a little marker up on the corner of North Williams and North Russell.
It's fucking sad we had to fight for that, and it's not really existent anymore. It really is just fucked up on so many levels.
I hope that there's like a really good narrative Fred Hampton film to come in the next 5 years.
Yeah, a narrative
say.
story.
I think it's,
to tell his story, like really how
time.
it should be.
And so, that is my recommendation of it. It's not the most complete document of it because of like a lot of stuff would come out later about what exactly happened. And, but yeah, like I said, just go find the entire it's about 90 minutes. The documentary is on YouTube in full, called The Murder of Fred Hampton. Mm-hmm. And that is what I got. All right. Last thing. Do we have any, let's see. Anyway, do you guys have anything how can folks get in touch with you, or anything you want to promote or anything, or final words, or?
No. I mean, it's same as last time. You can go to honkytonkunion.com. That's one of the groups I sing in. And I'm at Comrade Garrett on Twitter, but I haven't done Twitter shit in weeks, and I'm not sure that I will. But I don't know. Check it out.
Yeah, go if you're in Portland. Go to the Landmark on a Wednesday. It's usually like not the only Wednesday. It's like the second from last Wednesday or whatever.
The Landmark Saloon.
The Landmark Saloon's a good place to go if you're feeling bad.
Yeah, I sing there very often.
And somebody breaks up with you and you want to hear a good song. Like Garrett, I was like, I'm going to put $5 in your tip jar. I'm going to sing a song about breaking up with somebody.
I sang Natasha a breakup song last time. At her request.
Mm-hmm. So I'm reachable at Ashes for Foxes on Tumblr and Twitter. And my new handle is Cyborg Harpy. But that's my only Tumblr blog that I'm actually proud of. So.
All right. And one last thing. As mentioned at the top of the show, we now have a Patreon active. If you are enjoying what we've been doing these last few months, feel free to go to the Patreon at patreon.com/givingthemic. It is a way you can kind of give us a little automatic monthly donation of $1, and even up to, if you want to give us a little bit more, up to $5. We're going to be starting up.
So Jeremy's starting a cat pics feed, and I'm going to be posting pictures of my cat and me together, if you're okay with that.
Certainly.
I'll be putting them in that feed.
All right. As well as we will be recording little backer premium, if not episodes, at least short little bits.
Eplets.
Eplets, yes. Yep. Eplets, but not the kind that you wear on your shoulders. So once again, that's at Patreon.
Or maybe.
Or maybe. But I think, honestly, like, between all three of us, like, we could probably post, like, a short period segment on something we love and do it right.
Mm-hmm. And that'll be at patreon.com/givingthemic. As always, find us on Facebook, facebook.com/givingthemic. If you want to get in touch with the show, it is givingthemic@gmail.com. Twitter's givingthemic, one word. And with that, it has been a late night. Thanks everybody thank my guests for joining me here on this kind of semi-spur of the moment recording session. And anything last thing you guys want to say?
No, just be well.
Signing off.
All right, good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Especially if he dresses like a clown.
Yeah. Oh, dear Lord. We're going to talk about clown fuckers tonight.
Were you...
Clown Fuckers Incorporated.
Were you living in Portland when The Kids in the Hall came through last?
No, but Darren went and saw him.
Yeah, I got to meet him that night. They were cool.
Yeah, I heard it was a really great show.
At the if there's ever an act that is performing at the Schnitzer, they will almost always be staying at the Heathman, which is right next door.
Okay, that's where I'm gonna go hang out, and I'm gonna dress up in costume.
McKendry has a pretty funny story about seeing Bruce McCullough. Before, it wasn't when the Kids in the Hall were in town. He was part of the touring group of The Moth, you know, that
Even better.
that NPR show.
Yeah.
And she had this thing where she was like staring at him because she was like, where do I know that guy from? and then he had a moment of like, this person recognizes me, but she was like, I recognize him, but she doesn't know from where.
I bet, but that poor bastard gets it all the time.
And it was just a weird, I don't know. It's a pretty, you know, it's not like a mind blowing story, but it's pretty humorous.
No, I've been interested in listening to The Moth for a long time, but it's sort of one of those NPR podcasts where it's like the normies listen to it.
Well, yeah, and
Sorry.
At some point, everyone wants normies to listen to their podcast.
Well,
because I do.
There are always millions more of them. So
yeah,
Yep.
we're really trying to break through to normies.
I would like to break through the normies tonight. So whatever you love, whatever you like, I'm here for you.
But then we have to do things that we hate, like compare politics to Game of Thrones, or
make stamps.com advertisements.
which Jacob did do at the end.
Exactly, that's
at the
what
end
I
of the
was
last one.
referencing.
I'm going Pitney Bowes though.
Pitney Bowes?
Yeah,
which one is Pitney Bowes?
There's two companies that are allowed to like sell stamps, and well, stamps.com is one of them, and there's actually three, including stamps.com. Pitney Bowes is one, and the other one I don't remember the name of, but I've worked corporate jobs for long enough that it's like there's two, and they're both fucking awful. Like they're horrible to deal with, and so like if you need to get.
But Pitney Bowes seems to be the lesser of two evils.
No, they're both abysmal.
Okay.
None of them are good.
Well,
none of
go
them are
deepest
good.
into hell if you want to, but pick Pitney Bowes.
Yeah,
Pitney Bowes.
Pitney Bowes, best of the worst.
Sorry.
I should change your channel out so you're going through a compressor instead of not. You go up here and.
Who, me?
Well, no, I think I'm gonna put.
Probably me.
I'm gonna put Natasha through the compressor.
I'm the worst,
so
the worst.
It keeps
So,
up the
You would
her
hate
sound
my
level.
podcast setup story where I was like,
Oh, hang on a sec. Don't tell it yet. Don't tell it yet. There we go. Damn it.
Jeremy is destroying his rig.
so I overdosed on my medication, which is amitriptyline. I've been taking a half dose for the last 2 months.
To make you sleep?
Yeah, it's my sleep medication, but it's for A for migraines, B for depression, which I have, and it's an old tricyclic depressant. And I took 50 milligrams instead of 25 milligrams after taking 25 milligrams for about 2 weeks. And I wake up at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, I have to record at 11, and I have to set up my I have to set up my podcast. Oh my god, I gotta set up my mixer.
Yeah.
I have to do a mix setup.
And you have not done this before?
Well, I've done it before, but I have done it drunk. And you know how you do something drunk and then you like have to do it drunk again? So I wake up in the morning and I have to do it again. And I swear to God, I spend 15 minutes figuring out that I have to plug my headphone into my digital recorder to make myself listen to the real mix.
I've been a gigging musician for a long time, and what that means, you know, at the level that I play at, which is quite low, there's a lot of you get to a place and there's no one to run sound, and even people that are great at
I'm so glad I'm not the only one.
even people who are great at working PA machines are like, it takes them quite a while to figure out how whatever, you know, fucking botch work.
Well, I feel better now.
Yeah,